So, okay. Um, Yeah, last week we were talking about muscle memory. That was where we left off when we were talking about different types of memory. We're going to wrap up talking about memory, and then we're going to do a little demonstration of how how we forget quite rapidly, actually. So the next part of memory that we need to talk about is another part of our episodic memory, which we sometimes they happen to us sometimes collectively and sometimes individually, and those are flashbulb memories. And the reason that they're called flashbulb memories is if you've ever had your picture taken with a very, very bright flash, that light basically kind of burns into your retina, and if you close your eyes, you can kind of still see the outline of everything that you saw when that flash went off. A flashbulb memory is very similar in that way. Basically, it is a memory that is so stressful or emotionally arousing that it actually sears itself into your brain and you don't ever forget them. For example, we all have our own personal flashbulb memories. One for me is the birth of my daughter. I remember it very, very well. The entire thing. I still remember, holding her for the first time and thinking to myself, "Oh God, I am so screwed. This kid is so screwed. This is going to be bad. This is going to be really, really bad. Just keep breathing. Just keep breathing and don't drop her." Okay. But we also can have collective flashbulb memories. For people of my generation, we have a flashbulb memory surrounding where we were when we heard about the September 11th attack. For my parents' generation, it was where they were when they heard about the JFK assassination. For my grandparents' generation, it was where they were when they heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor. But we all have those moments that we can talk to each other about and go, yeah, I remember what happened on September 11th. I remember that day very, very vividly. It's something that I will never forget. September 11th, 2001, I was a junior at the University of Oregon. I had just moved off campus. I wasn't going to be living in the dorms that year, which was going to be kind of the first of being out on my own and not living in the dorms. I had to get up that morning to go to campus because I had something to do with the marching band that day because, yes, I was in the marching band in college. I'm cool like that. Anyway, I had to get to campus, so I had to wake up, which I did not want to do because I don't like waking up. But I had to get up. And I remember I had moved into this house off campus. It was the end of a dirt road. It was a 7-bedroom house. It was absolutely enormous house, but it was the dirtiest, grossest house I have ever been in. Like, it was awful. And we had, I think, 4 other people living there at the time. So there were 2 empty rooms. So I came out of my room that morning and I was going to go into the kitchen to make something to eat for breakfast because I'm an adult now, so I have to be responsible. So I made sure that I had enough stuff for breakfast in the morning. And I noticed that one of my other roommates, one of the other house people, was in the living room watching TV. So I went into the living room to see what was up. And as I'm walking into the living room, I remember him turning the TV off because he was going to work. He worked at Costco, and he had to bike his way there because he didn't have a car because he was lame. Anyway, I remember he turned the TV off as I walked in the room, and he looked at me. He's like, "Did you hear about what happened?" And I said, "No, I didn't hear what happened. I just woke up like literally 10 seconds ago. What happened?" And he's like, "Michael Jordan's coming back to basketball." And I went, "Okay, I don't really care about that, but all right." And he's like, "Yeah, and all air traffic is grounded or something." Anyway, I got to go. And he proceeded to get onto his bicycle and started biking his happy ass to Costco. And I remember as he was leaving, I thought to myself, Why would they ground all air traffic because Michael Jordan's coming back to basketball? He can't jump that high. That's ridiculous. Anyway, so I went into the kitchen to start making my breakfast, and I turned on the TV that was in the kitchen. And it was one of those old tube-style TVs, so it took, a couple of seconds to kind of warm up and produce a picture so you could actually see what was on the screen. And while it was warming up, you could still hear what was going on, and it sounded like it was some kind of movie that they were, advertising on one of those early morning TV shows, like Good Morning America or something like that. And I remember putting the bagel into the toaster and looking over and finally seeing the picture come up onto the screen, and it was the World Trade Center on fire, and then them showing footage of the planes flying into it. And I remember looking at it going, that is going to be a hell of a movie. I mean, those special effects look real. And then it slowly dawned on me, no, this is real. Holy crap. Oh God, I've got to tell the other people in the house. oh my God. So I went and woke up one of my friends who also lived at the house. And I said, there was a terrorist attack. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, there was a terrorist attack. You got to see this. It's on the news. What channel? All of them. It was on every channel. QVC showing footage of September 11th. ESPN showing footage of September 11th. Nickelodeon showing footage of September 11th. Every single show or every TV channel was news. And it was just news being thrown at us as it happened. And it was very, very confusing. And I remember just kind of standing there for a second, watching it with him as we're trying to make sense of any of this. And then I'm like, well, I have to go. I got to get to campus. So I finished getting ready. And I remember going out to the driveway to my car because I had a car because I was a functioning adult instead of that housemate of mine. And I put my hand on the car door and my phone started ringing. It was my mom. Are you okay? I said, yeah, of course I'm okay. Mom, I live in Eugene, Oregon. Okay. I don't live in New York City. I don't know anybody in New York City. We're fine. It's a beautiful day here. It's a little strange what's going on, but we're good. If the terrorists get to Eugene, there's far bigger fish to fry than if I'm okay. Okay. Everybody else is going to have been wiped out because there is literally nothing here to terrorize us with. The tallest building in Eugene is the old folks' home. Okay. The retirement home is the tallest building. We're good. She said, well, I just wanted to make sure because this is really scary and really crazy. I said, yes, it is. But we're good. Okay, just wanted to make sure. I'm fine. I hang up the phone. I go to reach for the door again. My phone rings. I'm like, God dang it, Mom. I look at it. It's my sister. So I have an older sister. Okay, she's about 3.5 years older than I am. Okay. I answer the phone. She's crying. And I'm like, Katie, it's okay. Everything is okay. Everybody you know is okay. Everything you know is fine. I just wanted to make sure that you're okay. Katie, I live in Eugene, Oregon, not New York City. I don't know anybody in New York City. You don't know anybody in New York City. Everybody that we know and care about is safe. Everything's going to be okay. I just wanted to make sure that I told you that I love. And I'm like, Katie, before you go on, let's not say anything that we're going to regret later. All right? Everybody's fine. Just relax. We're going to be okay. Okay. I got to go to campus. Okay.
That's cold.
Look, I've dealt with my sister for a very long time. You have to get her to stop. Otherwise, she'll just keep on going. Okay. So I got her to stop. I got her to calm down. So I remember going to campus. I remember everybody that was at the meeting was just kind of in a daze. We were all totally and utterly confused as to what was going on. The news had no idea who did it, why they did it. They didn't know anything. They were just spouting stuff at us, things that they heard. They just, anything that possibly could have come up, they said it out loud because they were trying to fill time with not just showing, buildings falling down and going, whoops. So it was very, very confusing. I remember being dismissed for lunch and going off and getting something to eat, and then going back and just sitting in the cab of the rental truck that I got to drive for the marching band, just listening to the news, trying to get any sense of what the hell is going on. Is there more coming? What is happening? And I remember for a couple of days afterwards, everybody was just kind of in that daze of, we have to be more in the present. We have to be more in the now. We have to be paying attention to, everybody around us, and, be caring, and all these, different things. And I remember the end of that was about a week later, because that week, the football team didn't have a game scheduled, so we didn't have anything canceled that week. All the rest of college football, baseball, everything was canceled that weekend. But the next weekend, everything was back, and we had a home game against USC. And USC brought a small contingent of their marching band with them to play in the stands and play their songs and stuff. And so we said, we'd like to join together as Americans, and we're going to play the national anthem together. How cool is that going to be? And the band director at USC said, sure, let's do that. And then came time to actually practice. And I remember, we're all standing kind of intermixed with one another in our, in sections. And I remember, one of the people in my band, in the Oregon marching band, kind of leaning out while they were setting up another group, and kind of leaned out and looked at the USC players and said, we just want to really thank you guys for coming out here and being a part of this. We're all Americans, and this is a really proud moment for everybody, and I want to thank you guys. And I will never forget this. I remember the person, one of the people from the USC band, leaned out too and said, shut up, and then went right back to looking straight ahead. We're like, oh, okay, so that's coming togetherness is over. That's fine. Okay, we're good. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, giant jackass. Turns out a few years later, I got to meet a person who was actually there. She was a person who worked with my wife at one of her jobs. And when I told her that story, she's like, yeah, that sounds about right. I said, oh, okay, good. I'm not remembering this incorrectly. Actually, I don't believe they said shut up. I believe they said something else, but I'm not going to repeat it because, that would be inappropriate. So, a flashbulb memory, again, is a part of our episodic memory. It's autobiographical. It's a part of who we are. And we do sometimes get the collective flashbulb memory, some kind of emotionally stressful or emotionally arousing event that takes place. Could your generation's flashbulb moment be the attack on the Capitol? Who knows? Okay, it really is going to depend on what happens next, because there's going to be a lot of other stuff that's going to happen in the next days, weeks, months, years that could take its place, and that will be even bigger than the attack on the Capitol. So just kind of one of those things. On Friday, you got to watch a video about eyewitness testimony. Just to kind of wrap that up, if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, get it done. What the hell is the matter with you? Okay, you have an easy way of being able to get this done. Just get it done. Okay, just get it done. But your memory is not like a camera. It's more like an old man sitting around a fire telling stories. Eyewitnesses can be flawed. They can remember things differently. They can have things altered or changed when it comes to getting that information out. You can also have misinformation implanted into your memory by accident, or if you're more nefarious, on purpose. Okay, so all of these things can kind of cloud an eyewitness statement about an event that happened to, another person, especially another person. All right, so we don't need to talk more about that. We do need to talk about schemas, because once you have encoded the information and you're storing the information, how does our brain store that information? The way that it does that is that it puts all of the information that's related to one another next to one another. And we call these a schema. It is a conceptual framework that everybody uses to make sense of the world. It's a way of kind of fast forwarding through all of the introductions. Okay, if you were to see this picture of this person wearing fatigues and the firearm, you might be having a different reaction than somebody else because of how your schemas are created. Okay, you might be looking at it and going, "Oh, he's a soldier. He's fighting for his country. He's a patriotic person." On the flip side, you might be going, "He's a middle-aged white dude with a gun. I need to get away from him." Okay, it depends on your own personal experiences, and that's what helps to build your set of expectations. Because as you have experiences, your brain organizes them all together neatly into a stack and goes, this is the schema about soldiers, and then puts it into the filing cabinet. And when you see something like this, your brain is reaching into the filing cabinet and going, okay, so soldier, middle-aged white guy, gun, ooh, scary. Put that in the scary folder. Okay, and here's everything else that's scary. And it can start to kind of affect you emotionally and psychologically and mentally. Okay, so schemas have a big impact on who we are, how we interpret the world around us, and it can actually lead to things like stereotypes. Because as we experience the world and as we gain more experience with the world, we start to create a world of stereotypes. Okay? And they only get reinforced. Once you have built a little stereotype, it can only be reinforced. And it is almost impossible to break up, because all of the things that go against your schema basically bounce off and get forgotten. So if you saw this and your schema is that middle-aged white dude with a gun is scary, and you're fearful of that. If I were to say, no, he's actually, he joined the U.S. Army in 2018 to fight for freedom around the world. He's vehemently opposed to fascism and all this other kind of stuff. You would still go, that's nice. That guy's scary. All of that information would basically bounce off. And that's why stereotypes are so hard to break. Because we only add to those schemas, it's really hard to break them apart and go, well, this doesn't fit anymore. That goes over here. This goes over there. Okay. It's really, really hard to do. Okay. Because they get reinforced and they get reinforced and they get reinforced. And before you know it, you're spouting something really, really racist and you don't realize it because, well, obviously, that's the truth. Come on. No, that's not how that works at all. Oh, well. Huh. All right. Now that we have the encoding and the storage complete, now we need to start retrieving that information. The last job of your memory is retrieval. And the last thing that we really need to kind of think about and to understand is how difficult it is to pull stuff out of that filing cabinet. Because oftentimes when you're reaching in, you pull out way more than you need, and a lot of it is unrelated, but it's kind of sort of tangentially related. So it's basically like, oh yeah, it's related, but not really. So I want you to think about the names of the seven dwarves. Okay. Now, I don't want you to put the names of the seven dwarves in the chat window. All I want you to do is I want you to tell me how many names do you actually remember? How many of the dwarves' names do you remember? Why didn't I join football? I am the least athletic person I think you've probably ever met. That would be a big reason why. I haven't seen the history of swear words yet. I'm very much looking forward to watching it, but I haven't had a chance to yet. Okay. Stop putting the names of the dwarves in the chat window. Just put a number that you remember. Jeez. 1, 4. I did not have a flip phone. I had the original indestructible Nokia phone. Okay. I had I forget the number, but it was the standard indestructible Nokia phone. So it wasn't even a flip phone because they didn't have those yet. Flip phones wouldn't come out for a couple more years. You have to remember, this is 2001. All right. Anyway, so 3, 4. Okay, not very many. All right. So that is what we call retrieval, where you have to reach in and grab something blind and hope that you remember what you're supposed to remember. It often can lead to kind of that tip of the tongue situation where you remember it, but you just can't say the word out loud, and it takes you a couple minutes to sit there and go, that tip of the tongue syndrome. Another way that we can pull information out, however, is through what we call recognition. And recognition just is being able to recognize what you are trying to remember and not trying to retrieve it out of your long-term memory. So, recognition, what does it look like? Well, here is an example. So I asked you to try to remember all of the names of the seven dwarves. Now I'm going to give you a list of names. How many names do you recognize now? Okay, we've got Tubby, Grouchy, Gabby, Fearful, Sleepy, Smiley, Jumpy, Hopeful, Shy, Droopy, Dopey, Sniffy, Wishful, Puffy, Dumpy, Sneezy, Lazy, Pop, Grumpy, Bashful, Cheerful, Shorty, Nifty, Happy, Doc, and Wheezy. Okay, how many can you remember now because you can just simply recognize them? No, there's only the seven dwarf names. 7 of them are in there. The rest of them are just fluff to mess you up, I should say. Okay. 4, 5, 6. Okay. Instead of it being the average being around 2 or 3, we're starting to see the average increase to 4 or 5. Retrieval is a more difficult process than recognition. Okay, think of a fill-in-the-blank test versus a multiple choice. The multiple choice questions, the correct answer is staring you in the face. You know the answer is right there. You just have to be able to recognize the correct answer. If I were to change the test to a fill-in-the-blank, now you have to know it and you have to remember it. So no longer does it take about a minute to answer the question. Now it could take 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes to remember the question. Okay. Recognition is easier than retrieval. Okay. So, how do we forget things? Well, forgetting is a process that happens to all of us all the time. The The first and simplest way that we forget things is through the process of decay. Simply over time, we forget things. It's not that we're bad people. It's not that we're doing it on purpose. It's just they slowly disappear over time. What exactly do you want? So, how do we stop that from happening? Well, you have to keep that information moving in your mind. You have to kind of bring it up again so that your brain can, oh yeah, it's right there. It's right there. It always knows where it can find it if you're constantly bringing it up. That's why studying works, because you're constantly refreshing that information in your head so that your long-term memory will know where it's located so that you don't forget it. It's the craziest thing. Okay? And don't argue with me. That's how we remember things. You don't remember things long term by seeing it one time and then never thinking about it again. You see it over and over and over again. How do you memorize the entire run of The Office? You sit down and you watch it over and over and over again. Replace chem with calc or anything else for that matter. The fact is that were you studying in small chunks over a long period of time, or did you cram everything the night before the test? Because how you study also affects how much you remember. Duh, you crammed. Duh, that doesn't work. Okay? So if you are doing the small chunks over a long period of time, you will remember far easier. Okay? Take my word for it. We have information that backs this up. I'm not lying. All right? So another way that we can forget is through simple memory loss, whether it be through some kind of traumatic experience or an injury to the brain itself. You know, a concussion can cause memory loss. Seizures can cause memory loss. We can lose that information that way as well. We can also lose information by having new information interfere with old information. Okay, so if you have, if you're learning something new and it's kind of like this other thing, and you just kind of like, yeah, we're just going to move this new thing right in front of it, it loses that information. It goes away over time. So that's another way that we can forget. One other thing that we have is something called amnesia. Now, amnesia is exceedingly rare. It is not something that happens very often. As a matter of fact, it's often used as an excuse in like a soap opera. You know, he's got amnesia. He doesn't remember anything. Yeah, that's a fat pile of garbage because that's not how that works. Okay. It is the simple process through which either A, retrograde amnesia, where you forget things in the past, okay, you forget a block of time in the past, or anterograde amnesia, where you are unable to create new memories into the future. Okay, so there's two different types of amnesia out there. Both of them are extremely rare. They usually only occur with some severe brain trauma, either like a contusion or a severe concussion, or seizures, or a brain tumor, or a brain surgery, or some kind of laceration to brain tissue itself. That's really the only time that kind of thing happens. It doesn't just happen like you wake up one morning and you don't remember who you are. That's not a thing. That doesn't happen. Okay. So again, amnesia, interference, memory loss, decay, they all also typically follow the same process. And we're going to take a look at this in just a second. Okay. What we're going to do in just a little bit is we're going to play a game. Okay. And it's a game where your job is to remember as much as you possibly can. You may have played a similar game to this when you were in elementary school. It's called telephone. You kind of everybody sits around in a circle, and the teacher, says something to the first kid, and then the next kid, and then it goes all the way around the room until it gets to the last kid right before that, and they have to say what they heard from the kid next to them. Okay, we're going to do something similar. It's called a rumor chain. Okay, what is going to happen is the information that we remember is going to be trimmed back in a very similar way each and every time. The first thing that's going to go are all of the details. Okay, the details are going to get chopped. After the details, the plot points that don't really add anything to the story, so the story is going to get kind of morphed a little bit. And then the last step is going to be the story itself is going to start to change. All right. So, sorry. Now we are going to try